There aren't a whole lot of things that scare me, but put giant bugs in front of me and I'm tapping out. I remember reading the webtoon HIVE a few years ago, and if there's one thing I've been sure of since I first saw it, it's that bug apocalypse is the worst apocalypse. Welcome to day 1 of Webtoon Week 3. Today I present 5 horror webtoons even sissies need to read, and HIVE is first on the list. Just like everything still to come, all the horror will be purely psychological. Don't expect much gore or many jump scares that'll make it hard to stare at the page. All the terrors that lie in wait arise only when you make the mistake of putting yourself in the character's shoes. Something an idiot like me was bound to do. Time to bust out the bug spray, because in this story, rising oxygen levels doped insects all the way up until one day, they went from cool finds online to rip out your spine. It follows the typical post-apocalyptic formula, with a man trying to find his family occupying the leading role. But instead of your typical undead brain eaters and brain-dead bite hiders, the unending swarm of wasps demands more than a handful of skilled fighters to withstand. The art admittedly won't find its way into any museums this century, but I appreciate how the use of color lends to the dread of this dark and downtrodden world. Definitely give it a read if you're in the mood to scratch that post-apocalyptic itch we all have every now and then, but if you are in the mood for something a little less likely to get you stocking up on Raid, the low fantasy world of Not Even Bones should provide some frights that won't keep you up at night unless you've had a personal encounter with Jeffrey Dahmer. Young lady Nita grew up wishing to become a scientist that studied the unnaturals of her world, but instead of through a degree program at university, her supportive mother's given her plenty of practical experience. In the basement. Through quite unlawful and unethical practices, I must say. While mom goes out hunting unicorns and the monsters among men that are zanies, Nita's job is to dissect her prey to ship out their pieces to whatever twisted moguls or dons are paying the highest prices for those premium slices. Most of the bodies were of wanted criminals anyway, so she didn't let it weigh on her too much, but when mom brings home a live boy she plans to hack away at slowly, for freshness, Nita's morals are put to the test, and she wrestles with whether to oppose her mother and risk waking up in a bed of corpses. Again. With crazed cannibals and carnivorous creatures abound, this one will have you on edge, and as I don't intend to ruin it for you, I'll leave it at this. Nita goes through a hell of a lot, and there's only so much her special power can do to help. If you can only read one thing I'm going to tell you about today, this is one of the 2 I really hope you consider, and the other special recommendation goes to Everything Is Fine. If bugged out birth bags and dismembered bodies are too much for you to stomach, let's take the fantasy and science out of the fiction in favor of some colorful, cute, and cat-headed crime. This one's a super slow burn, but if we're strictly talking about literary greatness, I've yet to read a webtoon I think surpasses it. There are heavy mystery elements that make it difficult to recommend in so few words without spoiling anything, but life under constant government surveillance from when you wake up at 2:60 in the morning till late at night when whatever the hell that guy is starts rummaging through your trash before the police get him will make you sick, twisted, deranged, and really fun to watch. In a world where every person knows somebody's got their literal kill switch, any mistake could be fatal. If you need a little more convincing to go and give that a look, my old video on it's up in the cards, where I give it as much shine as Rosie tries to give the guy upstairs when the police come knocking. Imagine this. You're super under the weather and slightly under the influence one day on your way home, so rookie mistake. You head on up to the wrong floor, walk into the apartment that's in the same place as yours, then 1212, you overhear a pregnant lady's boy troubles and bear witness to modern-day Jack the Ripper doing his thing. It's naturally hard to keep your cool. You end up making a noise, then jump out the window when the guy's about to get ya, hit your head on the way down, and wake up in the hospital where he proceeds to gaslight you into thinking it didn't happen because you were sick and injured anyway. The evidence is obviously gone, and so begins Rosie's new life under the gaze of the guy upstairs. I'll be honest, this one's just in the thriller category. It has nothing to do with horror, but if we're being honest, living with a serial killer who may be setting his eyes on your best friend and trying to gather intel on him before the death of the next poor lady unfortunate enough to fall for his charm and wiles, while comically entertaining at times, is probably scarier than the prospect of surviving romance, the last entry on our list. Now that I've finally got the chance to share this gem with you, I have to say, it's pretty darn good. Any good horror list has to start and end with the existential dread an apocalypse brings about with deadly threats around every corner. But any great horror list will make sure these are completely unique experiences. Zombie apocalypse, but the main character is actually a human who swapped places with the lead of her favorite romance novel. She was honestly having an amazing time finally being the object of adoration of the boys and target of jealousy of the other girls, but the zombie apocalypse wasn't in the script and interrupted right on the day of a long-awaited confession. That's not it though. The story goes full re-zero with it, and she keeps restarting after every violent death, and there's little she can do about it. And that's not it though squared, because she also has a mental block that stops her from seeing the true forms of her classmates. They're all blurred out figures because they were always just NPCs to her, so she can't tell who's who, can't convince them to cooperate with her knowledge of the near future, and can't survive long enough for the happily ever after she'd been waiting for. With subplots informing how she got here, what her past life was like, and what happened to the not-so-amused girl she replaced to get here, turbulent days await that she won't be surviving without some much-needed character development.